Miss Amy. Amy, all yours.
Afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So welcome. My name is Amy, as I was introduced, or Amelia, as I was introduced by Miss Lupe. I am currently the market director in the Central Valley for Lenny Guerrero's Market. So I oversee both Fresno and Walnut Creek. And I was asked to give a talk about emotional intelligence. I'm having some technical difficulties, so I apologize. The view of my screen is a little different than normal, but everybody can see it okay, right?
Yes, we are fine on our end.
Yeah, I think so. It's just echoing throughout the whole thing.
Can everybody go on mute, please? Thank you. And then if you guys have any questions, you guys can feel free to put it into the group chat if you'd like, and I'll be monitoring it for you, Miss Amy.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we'll begin.
Visit our website, pfchangs.com, to place an order for takeout or delivery, or to make a
somebody
reservation.
Put me on hold.
If you would like to speak with a team member, please hold on the line. Thank you for your patience.
Waterfront. Thank you.
This call is very important to us.
Okay, so please, if you're on calling from the restaurant phone, do not put us on hold. Okay, take two.
Okay, so what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is often measured It's the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships, and be empathetic around them. It often is viewed as kind of the difference of what makes a good leader versus a great leader. A lot of things play into part when we're leaders. Some of them have high IQs or technical skills, but it's often viewed that emotional intelligence is one of the most important things that can drive not only oneself, but drive your team as a leader. Sometimes it's most often defined as the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. So a review published in the Annual Review of Psychology in 2008 found that a higher emotional intelligence is positively correlated with better social relations for children, better social relationships for adults. Highly emotional intelligent individuals are perceived more positively by others, and then lots of other accolades. Among children and teens, emotional intelligence positively correlates with good social interactions and relationships, and negatively correlates with deviance from social norms, antisocial behavior, measured both in and out of school, as reported by children themselves, their own family members, as well as their teachers. Better social relations for adults. High emotional intelligence among adults is correlated with better self-perception of social ability and more successful interpersonal relationships with less interpersonal aggression and problems. Highly emotional, intelligent individuals are perceived more positively by others. Other individuals perceive those with high EI, emotional intelligence, to be more pleasant, socially skilled, and empathic to be around. Better academic achievement. Emotional intelligence is correlated with greater achievement in academics as reported by teachers, but generally not higher grades once the factor of IQ is taken into account. Better social dynamics at work, as well as better negotiating ability. So you think about that, like you have some high executive who is maybe negotiating a merger. You want that person to not only have like a high cognition, but you also want to have them with a high measure of emotional intelligence, because they can do not so much manipulating, but they are able to help control their own emotions and to get the job done. So in a lot of research, that was one thing mentioned. It's also positively correlated with a higher life satisfaction, self-esteem, and lower levels of insecurity or depression. It's also negatively correlated with poor health choices and behavior. So in emotional intelligence and action, a personal story. I don't necessarily have one specific, but I think we can all relate as, you know, in operations of restaurants and such, that maybe we've been derailed by conflict or got emotionally involved in a situation in one of our restaurants. Maybe the kitchen is running at high ticket times and, you know, you lose your cool because really all you want to do is get the job done, and you become emotionally involved as opposed to rather looking for a common ground. You know, if you're taking a step back and trying to play, it's best to play mediator and understand what the bigger picture is. So instead of losing a cool and maybe yelling at somebody for messing up a dish, that we try and find common ground. Maybe this individual is new, or there was a recipe modification, let's say. A better way with someone using their emotional intelligence could have handled that is just to have step back and maybe look at what the situation was in that person's shoes, using empathy, and could have helped the situation without losing their cool, but maybe talking to that individual quietly, taking them aside and letting them know the reason as to why their mess up is causing more chaos, if you will. So a lot of times people think that disagreements are bad, but when you're looking at it as a factor of emotional intelligence, disagreements can be productive and helpful if you're having shared common goals. So how can you achieve emotional intelligence? So emotional intelligence is actually grouped up into 5 skills that enable the best leaders to maximize their own and their team members' performance. So we begin with self-awareness. So self-awareness is knowing one's strengths and weaknesses, what drives you, what are your values, and how it can impact others. So understanding your emotions and not letting your feelings rule you, which we can all probably relate to. Having confidence and trust in your intuition and not to let your emotions get out of control. People who are self-aware are also willing to take an honest look at themselves. That's a big factor with self-awareness. They know their strengths and weaknesses and know how to work on the areas that they can perform better. Many people believe that this self-awareness is the most important part of emotional intelligence. The second factor is self-regulation. It is the ability to control one's emotions and impulses. Learning to redirect your own impulse and moods is a big factor in self-regulation. People who self-regulate typically don't allow themselves to become too angry or jealous, and they don't make impulsive, careless decisions. You're thinking before you act. So knowing that comfort with change, having integrity, the ability to say no, thoughtfulness, those are all points of self-regulation that comprise in the emotional intelligence. Third is motivation. So relishing in achievement for its own sake. So characteristics of motivated people, they're highly productive, they love a challenge, and they're very effective in what they do. A lot of what's involved in emotional intelligence and what I've read is that people who learn to not only motivate themselves, others kind of see that happening, and then it causes them to also motivate themselves. So it's kind of a triggering effect, which is important. In fourth, we have empathy, the ability to identify with and understand the wants, needs, and viewpoints of those around you. You kind of understand other people's emotional makeup. So people with empathy are good at recognizing the feelings of others, even when those feelings may not be obvious. They also avoid stereotyping and judging too quickly, and they live their lives in a very open and honest way. Last but not least, we have social skills. So social skills is kind of building rapport with others to move them in desired direction. So people who have great social skills can manage disputes. They're excellent communicators, masters at building and maintaining relationships, usually easy to talk to. People with strong social skills are typically team players rather than focusing on their own successes first. They help others develop and shine. A lot of these come naturally to some people. Others, it can all be strengthened by asking for feedback from mentors, from your higher ups, from your managers that you work with on a day-to-day basis. Because some may say, like with empathy, for example, oh, I don't have any empathy, it's my last strength. But if someone is constantly trying to figure out how others' emotions affect them, then that is them practicing that skill to increase their emotional intelligence. Apps like Calm and some of those other apps that have come out are all relative in emotional intelligence because it's helping to create a focus, kind of blurring everything else out around you is an approach to help self-regulate, so all of these that we just went, all these bullet points, that it's just kind of working that muscle, just like you learned any other skill. You learned to navigate Workday, for example. You only learned that because you practiced. The same follows with emotional intelligence. So observing how you react to people and how to improve. Don't rush to judgment. Look for honesty. Look honestly at how you think and interact with other people and try to put yourself in their place. Being open and accepting of others' perspectives and needs. To look at your work environment. Do you seek attention for your accomplishments? Humility can be a wonderful quality, and it doesn't mean that you're shy or lack self-confidence. When you practice humility, you say that you know. Lost my train of thought. That you know what you did and you can be quietly confident about it. You give others a chance to shine and you put the focus on them, and don't worry too much about getting too much praise for yourself. A lot of it is somebody who is an emotionally intelligent person generally approaches a situation or other people with the what's in it for you attitude rather than a what's in it for me. There's like a constant balance of that self-awareness, regulation, motivation, empathy, and with those 4 components typically comes social skills, because you're approachable, and so that helps to build relationships with your colleagues. You can do a self-evaluation, like I spoke about in the beginning, that someone who is high on the emotional intelligence spectrum, you kind of know what your weaknesses are. Are you willing to accept that you're not perfect and that you could work on some areas to make yourself a better person? Do you have the courage to look at yourself honestly? It can change your life. Examine how you react to stressful situations. This is a big one. We work in a high stressful environment. Do you become upset every time there's a delay or something doesn't happen the way you want? Do you blame others or become angry at them, even when it's not their fault? The ability to stay calm and in control in difficult situations is highly valued in the business world and outside it. Keep your emotions under control when things go wrong. Take responsibility for your actions if you hurt someone's feelings. Apologizing directly and not ignoring what you did or avoiding the person. People are usually more willing to forgive and forget if you make an honest attempt to make things right. You know, if you have a disagreement with someone and you take a step back and you then come back to the situation with a perspective of what went wrong. You know, your granny probably always said you get more flies with honey than you do vinegar. That's really just the golden rule in how to get, you know, motivating your people and to have them center around you, and it's just the golden rule. So most of us have taken our Clifton Strengths, and many of you will understand like that you can leverage what you're naturally good at by looking at your Clifton Strengths. It's given a lot of insight. Anybody that hasn't, you can email your training department to get set up with a Clifton Strengths coaching after you take the questionnaire. And then there are also second coaching sessions available for those who want to participate. It's a great insight because as emotional intelligence has those 5 spectrums, it also breaks down to what type of leader you are, which align with the way we view Clifton Strengths. Many of us are more strategic and many of us are more people and thinkers, relationship building. And so finding, again, that good balance between those can help drive you just to be a better leader and team member and just person, parent, you know, spouse, partner. It plays into your personal life as well. So it is a key trait of an effective leader. And take a moment today to look introspectively. How do you handle your own emotions, and how do you address the emotions of those around you? Can you easily pick up on how others are feeling? Can you influence the emotions of others intentionally? Because having emotional intelligence, not only are you looking introspectively, but you can also help motivate those around you and not necessarily change their behaviors, but help them to become aware of a behavior that's happening so that they can look inward and try and pivot. Maybe if they are impacting something negatively, you want them to have a positive impact in your work environment, of course. So how can emotional intelligence help you live our brand frame? I'm just going to read a little excerpt from Emotional Intelligence for Dummies, because why not? So some of this plays into making emotional intelligence, the benefits of it in the workplace. So better managing of stress at work, improving your relationships with coworkers. You can deal more effectively with your supervisor. Perhaps you'll be more productive, be a better manager and or leader. You better manage your work priorities. Be a better team player. The managing work priorities is a big one. Part of what I've read is when someone has a high emotional intelligence, part of the stress management comes through delegation, that you're comprising your priorities of what needs to be done, what can be done, and what can be delegated out. This is maybe someone else on your team to manage not only your workload, but your stress, and then you're involving everyone else on your team to have a common goal. And that's kind of how it plays into our brand frame, is that we want to embody that it's beyond craveable, always clean, every day, every time. That's can play into your attitude and your vibe at work. Making everybody feel like family. People feel more like family if they feel they can come to you, whether they have something funny to say or that they've got an issue that you can perhaps help mediate. And that it makes you want to come back. Of course, that's our motto, and something that we value wholeheartedly. It also plays into making sure that we're hiring the right people, and that we're putting the right people in the right jobs. We're encouraging and supportive of coworkers in our teams. People with high EI have good interpersonal skills and are more supportive of teammates. And really, you're wanting to foster an environment where coworkers can socialize and develop friendships. Not only does it help because we have a referral program for our team members, but it's a buy-in that if they're working with the people that they genuinely appreciate and want to work with, then it's just a great environment to want to work in. And the more emotionally intelligent individuals you have working for you, the more profitable you're going to be. Because really, that's part of why we're in business. That's really my presentation. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions, if it's something that I can answer now or maybe share in the future if you had questions.
I don't have any questions in the chat box.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. I appreciate. I hope somebody got something out of what was said today. If not, if it was reiterating maybe some of the Clifton strengths that you are really great at, just how to leverage those in your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Great,
Thanks,
great job,
everybody.
Amy.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Have a great afternoon. Thank you.